Good morning, councillors. Good morning, members of the public, and good morning, staff who may be viewing in. Welcome to council's meeting, but this meeting will be held via teleconference and is physically closed to the public due to health and safety reasons associated with the public health emergency involved with COVID-19. So the meeting will be recorded and will be made available on council's website following the meeting. So welcome to the meeting, councillors. First up, we'll have the Acknowledgement of Countries. So I'd like to hand over to Councillor Barlow.
Thank you. We respectfully acknowledge the traditional country on which we meet today. We also acknowledge and pay our respects to the traditional custodians and their elders past, present and emerging.
Thank you, Councillor Barlow. Can you also do the Acknowledgement of Country? Oh, sorry, the opening prayer.
Let us in silence pray or reflect upon our responsibilities to the people of Moreton Bay region. We meet today to serve our community, to use our resources wisely and well, to represent all members of our community fairly and to make decisions that promote the common good.
Thank you, Councillor Barlow. Mr. CEO, any apologies?
No apologies, Mr. Mayor. All councillors are in attendance.
Thank you. Memorials or condolences, councillors? Councillor Hayne has one.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I attended the funeral of Brian Manns last Thursday, along with Terry Young and the Caboolture, Morayfield and District's RSL sub-branch members. And I've got a few words here from his troop that I'd like to say. Brian was our current branch president. So Brian, he served in active service for the Army for 36 years. His rank on discharge was as Warrant Officer Class 2. His total service to his nation was some 53 years, where after his 36 years in armed service, he served a further 16 years and 4 months as a civilian with the Army, where he joined the Army History Unit. He established unrecovered war casualties and worked on soldier recovery. He retired in January 2017, where he was awarded the Australia Day Medallion on the 26th of the 1st, 2017. A few words from our local sub-branch. Brian joined our sub-branch a few years ago and eagerly started working as a curator and eventually branch president. He became branch president quite quickly, so I think that showed the respect he had from our group. He had a clear vision on how to take us into the future. He was a true gentleman who was very well liked and respected by our branch members. Brian was an excellent team leader and organiser, greatly admired mentor. There was a lot of unfamiliar faces at the service last Thursday from former and current Army members. I think a lot of them actually came up from Wagga, where he was based for a lot of years. His dedication and passion for the identification of the missing was something great work that he did. Present and past colleagues benefited from his vision, diplomacy, friendship and mentorship. He was inspiring, respectful, a very proud Australian, unswerving loyalty, a diplomat, a proud family man, and a kind, caring man and a wonderful team leader. And our condolences go out to his family, particularly his wife too, that he's left behind here in Caboolture with us. I'm sure she'll be well looked after by the RSL sub-branch members. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hayne. Are there any other memorials or condolences, councillors? Please raise your hand. I can't see everybody on the screen at the moment. Being none, we'll have a minute's silence in remembrance of Brian, but also any other residents who may have passed away since our last council meeting. Thank you, councillors. Next item is confirmations of the previous minutes. So we've got the general meeting from the 9th of January 2022. Can somebody move that those minutes be confirmed? Councillor Barlow, seconded by Councillor Shipway. Are there any questions or amendments to any of those minutes, councillors, you need to raise? Being none, I'll put that to vote. All those in favour? You're in favour, Mick? All right, thank you, Mick. Oh, carried. Presentation of petitions. Are there any petitions, councillors? None. We'll move on to the next item. Correspondence, Mr. CEO.
No matters of correspondence to report today, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We have no community comment. Any notices of motions?
No.
Conflicts of interest, Councillor Grimway. No?
No, that matter's been removed, Mr. Mayor, sorry.
Thank you. Over to the officers' report. We start with session 2, Thriving Communities. Item 2 there.
Yeah, I'll move it, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Gillum. We have a seconder there. Councillor Tonks. This is just moving the renewals of our leases that have been done under delegation, which report back to us from time to time. I think there was 5 in that list. Any questions or comments, councillors?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. This is just the report back, councillors, on the delegated approvals that the staff have given. There are 5 of them listed and they're on page 9 there for you to have a look at, and they're all for 5-year terms, as is our practice.
Thank you, Councillor Gillum. Any other questions or comments? Being done, we'll put that to a vote. All those in favour? Carried, thank you. Next item is session 4 under well-planned regions for transport, the tender for the Arana Hills South Pine Plucks Road intersection upgrade. I'm sure that Councillor Constance will be very keen to move this one. Can somebody move the motion that the tender for the Arana Hills intersection upgrade for the amount listed there with those 5 action items be moved? We have a mover, please. Councillor Constance. Somebody second it, please. Councillor Hayne. I'll hand over to Councillor Constance for comment.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Significant and difficult intersection, this one. And I note that there is going to be a significant number of detours through the area required during this, but much needed, and the next stage of trying to improve traffic flows during peak hours in particular along this corridor. So we did a stage 1 down at the end towards Pavilion. We do this and then we come back in a couple of years to look at the greater sort of Pavilion intersection upgrade. So a significant safety issues here, and it will be good to see the traffic flowing a little bit better. I'm sure everyone will enjoy getting home much sooner.
Thank you, Councillor Constance. Are there any questions or comments on that? It's a significant amount of money, and we're going to draw some money for the future budgets to put into it to top it up. But as with all works recently, our quotes have been lower than what's costing due to COVID situation and the amount of construction that's going on. No comments or questions. I'll put that to vote. Then all those in favour.
Sorry, Councillor Hayne. I think he's got his hand raised.
Sorry, Councillor Hayne. My apologies. You're on mute, Councillor Hayne. Councillor Hayne, you're on mute. We can't hear you, Councillor Hayne.
Sorry about that. Yeah, look, no, I'm fine. I'm going to leave the question alone. I can take it offline.
Okay, thank you. Being no other questions or comments now, we'll move that. And all those in favour? Carried, thank you. Next item, session 6, item 6.1 is the monthly reporting package. The financial reporting package for the year dated period ending the 31st of December 2021 be received. Do you have somebody move that, please? Councillor Constance, second by Councillor Gillum. Questions or comments, councillors? Director Gregory, would you like to make a comment?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to draw your attention to the delivery of the capital program. You'll note that we're tracking under what we had anticipated to spend. As you pointed out earlier, Mr. Mayor, the program is being impacted by supply chain issues and contractor availability. So there is a body of work being undertaken, just having a look at that overall impact and what we might be able to do to address it.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you, Donna. And one more question I had too, Donna, was the comments in there about the Uniwater participation revenue is a conservative estimate and is non-cash revenue stream. Can you just explain that, please, for those people who might not understand that?
Certainly. We get a share of profit as a shareholder in Unity Water. That share of profit doesn't come in the form of cash. It goes to our balance sheet and increases our value of our ownership within Unity Water. So the value of our shareholding in Unity Water increases, but we don't get it in a cash value. So the increase is reflected on our balance sheet.
Thank you, Donna. And also noted that councils that the average return we're getting on investments is very low at 0.4%, 41%. So it's very different to the years gone past where we were getting 6, 7, 8% interest on our money.
Indeed.
Any other questions, councillors? Councillor Constance.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. My question is just in regards to the comment by Director Gregory there. There's clearly a gap, I guess, because prices are up, but delivery's down. Well, it sounds like we're still under budget, so delivery's obviously way down. How far behind, I guess, in terms of the quantum of work that we were expecting, are we behind? Do we know? Have we actually got a kind of figure on that? Not necessarily in terms of dollars, but the percentage of projects we were expecting to undertake this financial year?
I might ask Director Martini to address that.
Thanks, Donna. Through the chair, if I can. Councillor Constance, you can see the information on under capital expenditure pages 3, 4 and 5. We're certainly tracking at about $90 million or 87.7 year-to-date spend at the end of December. That should be based on the rollover. There was significant rollover funds or carryover funds from 2021 into 21-22, which inflated the budget from 250 to about 330. There's been a reduction that you'll see in Q2 of about $30 odd million, nearly $40 million, because of those delays that Director Gregory spoke about. And for example, you've recently approved a project in Henry Road. The Henry Road project was earmarked to be completed in the 21-22 financial year, where it will be spending $2 to $2.5 million in 21-22, with the bulk of the $12 million spent in 23-24. Likewise, we've got a similar challenge with Old Gympie Road, which the section of road was going to be upgraded in front of the Dacabin landfill from Elmer to Goodwin. That similarly, more than likely, will not be delivered or commenced this year, and will be packaged up with another project for 22-23. So we're working through at the moment what our prediction would be to what Q4 looks like in terms of end of position. We will still probably underspend by nearly an equivalent amount of what we carried over last year at this time, but that's got to be clarified, and there's a session coming to council where a briefing session in February where that will be articulated further.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Constance. Any other questions or comments? There's another point there. I noticed that council's repaid $20 million of our debt of intended $42 million that we're going to repay over this year. And we budgeted to borrow $50 million capital works as well. No more questions, council? I'll put that to a vote then. All those in favour? Carried, thank you. Next item is the Australian Local Government Women's Association National and Queensland State Conference that will be held from the 1st to the 3rd of March 22. Officer's recommendation there, we'd like to send our female councillors away to this conference. The councillors Ruck, Tonks, Chipway and Barlow be authorised to attend the national and state conference, and the chief officer arranged for officer attendance at this conference as appropriate. Do you have somebody move that motion? Councillor Savage moves it and Councillor Gillum seconds it. Any questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Hayne.
Yes, I highly recommend this Local Government Women's Association conference. I did attend it once, and it's not just for the ladies, can I just say, but good luck, girls, and I hope you have a good time meeting your colleagues from across the state.
Thank you, Councillor Hayne. There was another hand up I think I saw there. No?
Councillor Gillum.
Yeah, mate.
Gillum.
Yeah, I'll get rid of my hand. Yeah, I thought Councillor Savage was attending as well.
Thank you, Councillor Gillum. Unfortunately, I've had a change of circumstance, which has
Right.
stopped me being able to go.
Okay.
But I'm sure my colleagues will come back and brief me on some of the important discussions that I know happen at these conferences, including a lot of the information sessions. And I look forward to hearing from them, and I'm sure they'll have a great time.
Yeah, good.
I hope they'll brief all of us, Councillor Savage, and pass on the great knowledge they learned on those conferences. And councillors, there's no other questions or comments. Can you please raise your hands?
Councillor
Support that.
Tonks.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Tonks.
I just wanted to say we'll definitely be reporting back and about all the good things that we hear about, and we look forward to it going.
Thank you. Put that to a vote now. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Next item is 6.3, financial delegations to the CEO, which covers the period from April 21 to December 21. Part of our delegation we set up was that the report come back to council for all the expenditure authorised and contracts entered into in excess of $500,000 for that period. And that has what's been brought back to council. So officer's recommendation that council notes the report and the details of the expenditure authorised contracts entered in by the CEO be noted. Yep. Thank you. Will somebody move that, please? Councillor Constance, second by Councillor Savage. Are there any questions, councillors, on any of them? No questions, no hands up, as far as I can see. Are you right, Tony? Or I just see your name flashing. Must be, okay. All those in favour? Carried, thank you. That concludes our portfolio items. Now we'll move into general business. Yes. And before we do that, I'll start off with a mayoral minute. So please bear with me, councillors. That's mayoral minute is the Regional Economic Development Strategy 1-year anniversary. So councillors, tomorrow marks 1 year since this council embarked on the most ambitious plan ever to supercharge the Moreton Bay economy, jobs and industries. The launch of the REDS, or known as the Regional Economic Development Strategy, laid out a blueprint to create 100,000 jobs, double the size of our economy and become a top knowledge and innovation hub. It outlined how we would transform and modernise our region over the next 2 decades, making Moreton Bay bigger, bolder and brighter, headlined by a $40 billion economy. We don't want to waste any time taking action. That's why we developed a number of goals to be achieved in the first 18 months, and I'm pleased to report that 90% of these actions have been delivered. Guided by the leadership task force of local business leaders, council, we have kicked a number of goals over the last 12 months. Council joined the Small Business Friendly Council initiative in May to better support businesses in our community. These first year achievements alone highlighted, oops, I got a page. We launched a new Invest Moreton Bay. I thought it was pretty short for recapping on all those programs we've completed. We've launched the first Invest Moreton Bay brand and delivered a national 6-week promotional campaign to millions of people across Australia. We introduced a range of initiatives and programs like the Advanced Manufacturing Business Network, the Food and Agribusiness Network, Moreton Bay, and the Mayor's Telstra Innovation Awards and new economic development grants to better support our chambers of commerce and industry groups. We're continuing to partnership with Embrit following a competitive tender process to deliver increased marketing and tourism campaigns and new innovation programs. Council also partnered with USC Moreton Bay and RDA Moreton Bay, among others, on a range of initiatives, including business planning workshops and COVID-19 business advice and support. That's on top of our record $743 million budget to support businesses and jobs through COVID-19. Our business won 24 national and international awards, while our Reds took out the National Award for Strategic Thinking at National Economic Development Awards in October. And now we see more opportunities for our region with the 2032 Olympics and Paralympics locked in and a major progress at the Mill and Moreton Bay. Quite frankly, Moreton Bay has never been in a better position economically, with spending and business numbers growing and council generating 86 investment leads with a potential investment of $1 billion plus more than 3,400 jobs if fully realised. These first year achievements alone highlight how we are harnessing our region's competitive strengths to take advantage of key growth opportunities through our Reds. This growth cannot be achieved without the support and collaboration of our local businesses, industry stakeholders and Reds partners. Together, we truly are forging a bigger, bolder and brighter future for the Moreton Bay region. So councillors, I move that the councillors note the progress made of the Reds in the first 12 months as we near the first year anniversary of the strategy's adoption, and pass a vote of thanks and support to our local business community. So I move that, and can I have that second, please? Councillor Constance. Questions and comments, councillors? Councillor Savage, did you?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I was just going to say that I don't think you actually need a seconder, given that it's a Merrill moment, Merrill minutes.
Yes, thank you for picking me up on that. Comments, councillors?
Councillor Shipway.
Shipway.
Yep. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Look, I just wanted to acknowledge Paul Martins and his team. They've done a wonderful job so far, but no doubt the next 12 months are going to be offering more challenges than ever for our local businesses. So I think we're extremely fortunate to have someone at the level of Paul Martins and the team that he drives, and I look forward to the assistance we can give our businesses, not only with buying local, but anything we can do to help them through this challenging time. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Shipway.
Winchester.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to support that Merrill minute as well and reiterate what Councillor Shipway has just said. The phenomenal work done by Paul Martins and his team speaks for itself, and I think the relationships we've now forged across the business community and our chambers is paying great dividends for our strategy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Winchester. Any other comments, councillors? You know, I think we're very lucky to have the great economic development team that we have in place now. This council, Moreton Bay Council, has never had such a progressive and active economic development team since it started back in 2008. So very well done to that group, and thank you to the councillors for supporting that group and supporting the operations of that group through the council's budget process.
Councillor Hayne.
Councillor Hayne.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, that did rattle off the tongue quite quickly when you read it, but when you know the journey like we do over the past year, it's been a massive body of work, and the economic development team have done a lot. And I'll talk just to my division, Division 3 around Caboolture. The amount of ground that they've made there's unbelievable, with things that we've needed assistance with for a long time and now finally off the ground. And it'd be remiss of me not to mention the new Caboolture Commerce Group, brand new. Their first meeting, and their launch event is this Thursday night at the Historical Village, and it's just another one of the wins that we've achieved since going down this road. So congratulations to Paul Martins and his team.
Thank you, Councillor Hayne. Any other comments, councillors? If none, we'll put that to a vote then. All those in favour? Carried, thank you. General business, and I'd like to take the screen again with the matter that's come to in public interest of the Pavilion at the Suttons Beach. So I have a general business item here that I'm sure we will discuss and have more conversation as we go, but can I just have those two motions, please, first? I move that the current and future reports and photos the council holds be made public, and that the community engagement be brought forward to the 11th of February 2022, and we'll explain a bit more of that further down the track as we talk about it. So can I have somebody second that motion? Councillor Winchester, thank you. Councillors, we've had a lot of discussion in the last 2 days through the media, through social media, through emails of the Pavilion at Suttons Beach, and I'll ask the director soon to go through a historical link of what's happened there and give us a true and accurate record, I suppose, of the pathway and the journey we've been on so far. But unfortunately, in discussions with the tenant who was on that site and who knows some of the issues there that's been going on for a number of years, and council did have discussions last year with the tenant in February last year, and notified the tenant that his lease was coming up to expire in November and that it would not be renewed by council due to the ongoing issues with that building. The tenant then, I believe, asked for an extension of time over the Christmas period so he could continue trading and get through that probably a popular and a busy time for him there, which we agreed to. And I believe he also asked that we not make public the issue of the building and the structure so it wouldn't impact negatively on his business, which we agreed to. We then also said we will come back and discuss in February this year of a way forward of him exiting the building, and then the release of information to the community of the state of the building and the way forward that council is going to proceed. Unfortunately, the day before that meeting was supposed to occur, he decided to make it public that he was being removed from the premises and the building was going to be demolished. So we just want to correct some of the record that's out there and some of the public information that's been shared. As I said, we had a plan to do that to the public. We weren't going to hide anything. We were going to be transparent with this. But unfortunately, the tenant decided to go on his own track and his own journey, and some of that information hasn't been shared as well. So we want to be transparent with this council. We know we want to be open and transparent with our community. So that's why I want these documents to be released, the reports that we have on the building, which I believe are 4 building reports, and also photos of some of the damage there, and the path and the journey that we had going down after those briefings we received last year on the state of the condition of that building. So I'd now like to hand over to Director Martini to give us a bit of a recap of what's happened and the progress forward.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just to start off, just a summary of the life of the Pavilion building, the former bathing pavilion, Pavilion 1. It was constructed in 1937 and comprised a kiosk, dressing rooms, lockers, lavatories and showers. In 1975, the facility was then changed from a sort of like a bathing pavilion focus to a museum, Redcliffe Museum, and that continued to operate from that site from 1975 to the year 2000, where the museum was relocated to its current site on Anzac Avenue. Couple of the reasons that was given for the change was the lack of size for the bathing pavilion compared to what the museum required, and secondly, given the environmental conditions, it was thought to be detrimental to the items in the museum. The building was then, after 2000, was modified to accommodate commercial tenant Sam's on Suttons during the course of the 1990s and early 2000s, and from 2006 to the current day, the facility has been leased. The building has had a number of reports conducted associated with it, and of recent times, certainly since 2020 through to the current January 2022, there is a number of reports that have been done. Firstly, FSA Consulting Engineers from February, June of 2020, Converge Heritage and Community Consultants, they were more looking at the heritage aspects of the facility in April 2020. BE Collective, another engineering firm, again doing a structural audit review of the facility in May 2020. GHD provided undertook an inspection and provided a letter of advice in August of 2020. And finally, the Consulting Engineers and Associates undertook a investigation and a inspection in December of 2020. They also, in that COVI report, draw all the other engineering reports together. So it's probably a good report to look at and consider, giving it does include all those other commentaries from the other consultants. And finally, Ian McDonald Architects, a heritage architect, provided a report to the council in January 2022 about the bathing pavilion and its heritage, etc. The key issues for the facility and where we are currently, there's been prolonged water ingress to the facility, both through the back wall in terms of the embankment to the lower level of the bathing pavilion, and certainly through the upper deck, through the roof and the awnings, etc., and windows on the level 1 of the facility. The other key issues going forward is the condition of and the age of the concrete and the associated structural elements. The upper floor, which I touched on just a minute ago about the ingress, requires demolition of the walls, windows, roof lining, and potentially roof structure. And if the roof structure goes, HVAC will have to be relocated as well and re-put back, and a replacement of those. So certainly, to be clear, the top floor is recommended by the two engineering consultants that needs to be removed. The other key elements from a structural point of view is the rear retaining wall. It has 3 functions. It retains the embankment, prevents water ingress to the lower level, and supports the upper level suspended slab and structure above. So there is that needs to be confirmed, because the integrity of that is questionable. The location and exposure, obviously, of the facility, it's an 85-year-old building in a marine environment, which is very harsh. And the other final key issue would be the consultants' advice that they've provided to date is somewhat limited in terms of their ability to access the full structure, given that it was an active tenancy and they couldn't get to some areas that were covered by finishes like a kitchen, etc. Key quotes, so I'll just give you some key quotes from the some of the reports, which goes to the point of some of the concerns relating to the state of the building. The major issue has been prolonged water ingress. This has resulted in many reported failures, including the roof, external cladding system, wall cladding, glazing, balcony flooring, awnings and parapets, and retaining walls. More invasive investigations revealed that the water ingress has led to significant structural issues in some cases. Next quote, the upper level suspended slab forms part of the original structure, has reached the design serviceable lifespan of the structure. At its structure's end of serviceable lifespan, you expect the onset of more significant ongoing and sustained repair works requirements. This is not a line in the sand, and it may not be immediate, but just as it may well already be occurring. And given the age of the structure, it is likely that the original concrete has undergone some significant carbonation and is now low strength. Now, just the carbonation is a chemical reaction which affects the pH of the concrete. The higher the pH, the better protection there is for the steel reinforcement within the concrete structure. So it is expected that over time that the carbonation effect has lowered the pH of the concrete, and as a result, there calls into question the quality and veracity of the steel reinforcement in the structure. Council, as I said earlier, has engaged 2 heritage consultants over the course of the last 2 years. One was Converge Heritage and Community in April of 2020, and as I said before, Ian McDonald Architects in January released a report in January 2022. Again, I'll just read a couple of key quotes from their reports. As demonstrated throughout this report, and I'm talking about the Converge report, the former Sutton's Beach Bathing Pavilion has been irreversibly altered and is no longer a representative example of 1930 Pavilion. The stairs from Marine Parade retain much of the original integrity and should be preserved, and both consultants agree with that. If the existing building is demolished in the future, any new development on the site should ensure the character of the foreshore is not impacted. It's not necessary or recommended to build a replica pavilion. However, details such as current setback and original size and bulk of the former bathing pavilion should be respected and considered for new developments. And finally, it is concluded that the place now retains only some remnant original elements and is overall a highly altered building with poor integrity. The building now expresses a fake 21st century replica unrelated to its historical origins as part of the 1930s foreshore development and upgrade. The building is no longer able to sufficiently express its historical association with Redcliffe's 1930s foreshore development and upgrading, regardless of the fact that this was an important phase of Redcliffe's development. Going forward, Mr. Mayor, next steps would provide, as you have said earlier, all those reports that's outlined and we've gone through earlier will be on the council's webpage. The tenant is scheduled to leave the premises on or before the 28th of February this year. We would then secure the site by no later than the end of that week, so that it will have a site construction fence around it to protect the public from getting into the building and prevent people from getting into the building. Commence community engagement from the 11th of February and run that through to July, August, if not longer. Organise and undertake investigative works, which will include removal of internal finishes, for example, the lower kitchen, and undertake non-invasive invasive testing. And this would commence with writing a brief almost immediately to undertaking the work, which we anticipate will terminate around May, June of 2022. Provide the findings of this report and publish on the council's webpage. At the same time as we are undertaking the investigation works and the brief for that, we will continue the application for demolition through a DA process, which we expect will run in parallel with the investigative works and will take about approximately 3 months to complete. No decision will be made until the immediate investigation works are completed and a report is produced. And then the position would need to be determined at that stage, which is estimated to be around June, July of 2022. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Director Martini. And I'd just like then, when that report, item 6, then when that report's done, that it comes back to a council meeting to one to publicise that report and to proceed, if council proceeds on that track that we're going down or not. Councillors asked for comment. Councillor Winchester. Carl, did you?
Just muted there. That's right. Sorry.
Sorry, Carl, did you?
Yeah. Thank you, Matt, for bringing forward this general business item, and Director Martini for going through the background of this issue. I also greatly support the releasing of the engineering reports and engaging in community consultation regarding council's future plans. Like many residents across the Moreton Bay region, I'm saddened that the demolition of Sutton's Pavilion is the ultimate outcome. It is a gut-wrenching end to a journey to save the building. I've had a lot of conversations with locals over the past couple of days about this site. While the shock of the news has stirred understandably strong feelings, people I've spoken with understand the reasoning behind this outcome, given the facts of the situation. However, I do strongly believe that the rotunda can stay on at Sutton's Beach. And with your support, Mayor, I'd like to move an amendment to this motion to include the following wording, if I can. That the Moreton Bay Regional Council commit to retaining the rotunda bandstand at Sutton's Beach in recognition of its iconic value, and that it is distinct from the issues associated with the pavilion buildings.
So happy to accept that. We might put that as dot point 3, that the council commit to retaining the rotunda at Sutton's Beach? And what was the second part, Councillor Winchester?
The second part was the wording is that the Moreton Bay Regional Council commit to retaining the rotunda bandstand at Sutton's Beach in recognition of its iconic value. And that it is distinct from the issues associated with the Pavilion buildings.
Thank you. We put that in as dot point 3. Mr. CEO, did you want to comment on that, whether that wording needs to be altered or anything with the intent that we want to achieve?
No, I think it's suitable wording, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. If I could,
yes, Councillor Winchester, continue.
I could speak to that amendment, or was it to be seconded?
Yeah, happy for that to be part of the original motion.
Just to speak to the rotunda, well, I've sought feedback and received support for retaining the rotunda. I believe it's iconic in its own right, and it's not subject to the same damage as I've put there in the dot point 3. I strongly support saving the rotunda for future generations to enjoy its shade and continue to be a stunning setting for marriage ceremonies. I think it's part of the overall, brand and vision for the peninsula. It's definitely a fixture of the foreshore. I'd like to see continue on to the future as well. So I'd encourage council to support its protection and potential relocation, same part of Sutton's Beach if that needs to be part of the process to ensure its integrity and that it continues to be sited there. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Winchester. Can we just also add, probably just addition to the first one, that all current future reports and photos be made public of the pavilion structures? So we just, because it's just talking about Sutton's Beach as the heading there, we don't want to talk about the foreshores or anything. Councillor Gillum.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. Just with regard to item 3, that Carl moved and you and the seconder supported, well, no, you supported. The pavilion in its present site is probably not in a good position, so that committing to retain it, that just means at Sutton Beach, but not necessarily in its present position. Is that what's meant there?
Yeah, Councillor Winchester.
Yes, Councillor Gillum. It does not necessarily need to be where it is currently physically situated, but somewhere around that site to help progress, whatever happens in the future.
Right. Okay, I got no problem with that. And just in the first motion, of the pavilion structures should be up after photos.
Yep, thank you.
No worries.
Always handy to have a couple of teachers on the council. Councillor, have you finished that, Councillor Gillum?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Constance.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. My question is just in regards to that third dot point, and probably picks up on what Mick was saying. The retaining of the rotunda at Sutton's Beach in recognition of its iconic value. Well, I just wonder if we need to get a little looser in the wording, perhaps saying, this within the precinct or something like that, as opposed to necessarily at that location, because I'm concerned that the third recommendation there creates confusion and suggests that it, might have to be, kept at the spot where it is. And also, I do question the iconic value. Whilst I know it looks good, and I probably appreciate iconic over heritage value for it, because I don't know if that's necessarily the right wording either, given that it's a roughly 20-year-old kit form structure from Victoria.
Councillor Winchester, would you like to?
Yeah, I can speak to that. Look, I think regardless of the age or the origin from interstate, I think it has become an icon of the peninsula in much the same way as the rotunda and the jetty is as well. And the jetty itself at Redcliffe's I think that was about 1909 or 2000, so it's roughly the same sort of an age too. But it's something that I think a lot of people, not just locals, but visitors across the region from Southeast Queensland and beyond, associate with the peninsula, with our Moreton Bay region. I think over the years, there's been many people get married, have their ceremonies beneath that rotunda and had celebrations there, which are of course are memories that they'll hold for life and to cherish, and would like to be able to revisit, as well as people take that opportunity into the future as well. You know, there's a few things like this around the peninsula, which I think we've got to hang on to, even if, you know, it's only 20 years old. Over that time, it has become, I think, a very strong icon of the peninsula, and one of those things that we really cherish. So, you know, given it isn't affected by the issues outlined in the engineering report, I can't see a need to see that part of the face of the foreshore go unnecessarily if it can be avoided. So that's one of the main reasons that I'd like to see this retained, and I think the community have voiced support for this as well.
Thank you, Councillor Winchester. Any other questions? Councillor Constance? All good? Thank you. Councillor Gillum, you've got your hand up again.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. We're not just going to be demolishing this building if it gets demolished. We'll be putting something in its place. So I understand that our staff have already looked at some sort of concepts, and no doubt there will be some community input invited. This will be taking place. Any idea when?
I think that's part of the community engagement process, my understanding, Councillor Gillum, and
Okay.
Mr. CEO, you might want to touch on that and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's when we talk about the initial works there that were proposed. Once we get on that path of demolition, then we'll be making the area safe, turn it back to a lot of green grassed areas with toilets, change facilities, the ability for food trucks to go in there and park and be able to provide food services for people during the days and during the weekends. And then that's during that period is when the consultation with those other concepts that we've looked at, and what else is going to be put into that facility. So it's a journey that we're going on. The first bit is just to making it safe and getting it back to the public to be able to use that facility while we work out what we're going to replace the pavilion with.
So the point I'm sort of getting at is it's not as though we're going to demolish it and leave nothing in its place. Just like when the council, the former Redcliffe Council, did the jetty, they knocked the old jetty down and rebuilt with a new jetty because the old one was just stuffed. Same with Woody Point, it's been renewed. So this is really just part of an ongoing process of once something gets old and buggered, it can't be repaired anymore, and it's just reached the time where it has to be demolished and something will get rebuilt in its place. And it's really up to the public now to get involved if they really care and make sure they get their thoughts heard by council about what they want there. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Yep, that's dead right, Councillor Gillum. It will be replaced with something, which we'll work out what that will be, and that's where we'll consult with the community. They can have their input, but it is unsafe moving forward, and it is an issue as Director Martini outlined. So it will be replaced with something, which got to work out what, and that's a future and that's the plan that was always been in place, but and had been discussed with the previous tenant of going down that journey when we went to public consultation. Public engagement, which was planned, but unfortunately we weren't able to tell that story due to the issue being raised by the tenant about the building to be demolished without the whole story being told. So hopefully this will correct that record.
So just following on from that, these investigations we're going to be doing will probably cost 150,000. We know the building's buggered, so to speak. Would it be better off, rather than doing the extra investigations just to prove that it's buggered, that we put that money towards whatever's going to be coming there in the future? Just a thought.
Yep, understand your point, Councillor Gillum, and as we've chatted, we want to prove, without question, I suppose, the community that we have gone down every rabbit hole. We've looked at every opportunities to look at saving this building due to their connection with the Redcliffe Peninsula and also probably the wider Moreton Bay region. However, these works I believe we need to do to show the community that we've explored every avenue possible and that we're not taking this decision lightly, and we need to show the community that they can have confidence in decisions that we make. And we're going down that journey, being open and transparent with the community. And if it takes a little bit of money to show that, I think we need to do that to keep our reputation and our relationship with the community intact and continue to grow stronger and stronger.
Okay.
Councillor Constance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Could yourself or one of the staff perhaps just provide some clarity on how this consultation moving forward will tie into the previous significant body of work we did around the Redcliffe Foreshore Master Plan and Activation Strategy? I mean, that document's only a couple of years old and gives a pretty good indication from a significant body of public consultation on what we believe would see there, the vision, the activation. And whilst I acknowledge that there was certain exclusions and provisions around the Sutton Beach Pavilion area in terms of additional trade, we have a pretty good idea, I think. So I'm just curious as to how this consultation will tie to that.
I'll hand over to Ms. CEO. Is there a director you'd like to answer that question?
Yeah, thanks. Happy to take that question, Councillor. That previous consultation gives us the context, so to speak, for this particular consultation. This one, as the Mayor said, we were scheduled to kick off at the end of February, hopefully with a joint statement from the tenant. The situation has changed, so as the Mayor is proposing, we kick off on the 11th of February. But this is really particularly about, on the basis that the 3 engineering reports have said what they've said, and the ageing structure, what would the community like to be there? What has helped in the previous engagement for us now is that's led us down the path of saying the replacement of the building initially will be, as the Mayor has outlined, grassed areas, made it safe, a toilet block, power and conduits for food trucks, etc. So it's basically returning the space to the people for use of picnics, barbecues, etc. And that's come out of the context of that earlier engagement about what do people want on the foreshore. And it was very clear out of that exercise that people want public space. They don't want private space on the whole. And so it's returning it to public space. The consultation in parallel will say, well, do you want that forever, or what else would the community like to be there? But our thinking was it was important to return to public space as soon as we possibly can, hence running all these processes in parallel that Director Martini and the Mayor have talked about. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. CEO. Does that answer your question, Councillor Constance?
Yeah, I think it does, Mr. Mayor. As the CEO said, that previous strategy provides the framework and context. So, very good.
Thank you, Councillor Constance. And I just want to make clear that this will be remaining public ownership. We will not be selling this off to developers as hinted out there by some people. It will be public ownership, and if we did sell it to the current tenant who is apparently saying he wishes to purchase it, it will go into private ownership, and we do have not any control over what could happen in the future. And we do not want to see units there. We do not want to see any townhouses there, and we don't want to see any other kind of facility that's going to take away from the public use. So it will remain in council land and council's ownership. Been any other questions, councils, or comments? There's a hot topic at the moment in the community, but I believe this will set the record straight and explain the process and the journey that we're going on, and take that community on that journey with us, which is a difficult decision. As we've said, last thing we want to do is knock down a building that we don't have to, and the connection has with the community out there, but we have no other choice. And hopefully this documentation, these reports and this final report will prove that to council. So Mr. CEO, I just want the understanding too that once that final report's been done, that will come back to council for information and to a public meeting, which we can then announce to the public if the process.
Yes, they've got to come back for a final decision of council at that point in time.
Thank you. No further questions, councillors. We'll put that to vote then. All those in favour of that motion? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Council's general business. So I'll start at the top of the list. Councillor Hayne.
No, I'm fine, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Oh, no, just a quick shout out for the Lunar New Year Festival this Saturday night, Caboolture Town Square. Start your year with a big bang. If you've never been to it before, you're crazy. Thank you.
Councillor Hayne. Councillor Savage.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Tonks.
Thank you. I just want to let the community know that we're rescheduling the Aussie Arvo because sadly we couldn't have it on Australia Day this year. But Councillor Gillum, Councillor Barlow and myself are working hard to get that date hopefully soon, and we look forward to a rescheduled Aussie Arvo at the Lunar Pool, and we'll keep everyone updated. So keep an eye out for the new date.
Thank you, Councillor Tonks. Councillor Grimwade.
No, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'm fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Shipway.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Basically, I just want to acknowledge our inside and outside staff. Like every business, council has been affected with either close contacts or people with COVID. And I want to pass on an appreciation to those reasonable people in our community for their patience when they're requesting services, whether it be mowing of parks or filling in of potholes, etc. And lastly, I just want to say a big thank you to the staff who have been able to stay at work. No doubt they are working harder than ever and longer than ever. And yeah, for that we thank you and we hope everyone stays well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Shipway. Councillor Winchester.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Nothing further from me today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Booth.
No, nothing from me, Mr. Mayor. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Constance.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Gillum.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Look, just in regard to what Councillor Shipway mentioned, I've been getting, I'm sure like other councillors have as well, numerous requests for why aren't our parks being mowed. And just speaking with the director on that, we've had nearly a third of our workforce away and the contractors are in a similar position and they just can't keep up with their schedule. So that's the reason, and hopefully once the COVID wave has passed and the weather cools down a bit and it doesn't rain as much, the parks will be back to their usual pristine standards. So that's the story, and if we can get that out to people, that'd be good. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gillum. Good point. Councillor Ruck.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Latta.
No, nothing else for me, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, and Councillor Barlow.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor, but I would like to thank all the council officers. Let's try again, put the microphone on. I just wanted to thank all the officers for meeting with me for these past weeks since I got elected. This incredible work schedule that certainly had to be imparted to me, and I'm extremely grateful for the way that they've done it and given freely of their time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barlow. And you're fitting in very well to the team of councillors. So, councillors, there'll be no more general business. Mr. CEO, you had nothing to raise?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Here we have no closed business. So that concludes our general meeting for today. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, staff. And thank you to the public who may be viewing this later on. Now officially close the council meeting. And thank you. Take care.